Hello everyone, my name is Philipp Bracht. I'm the product owner and architect of Project Luigi, and in this session I will talk about a trending topic in front-end development called Micro Frontends. So let's start with the definition of Micro Frontends. During many talks I had in my role as a product owner of a Micro Frontend framework, I recognized that this is a challenging task. Maybe because the term micro frontends is pretty easy to take up. Everybody knows what frontends are, and that micro means very small. So most people have something in mind when they hear the term the first time, and that makes it sometimes hard to revise potential misconceptions. So first point I want to tackle is the spelling. So it starts already there. Also to avoid to make the impression that there are accidental inconsistencies in this presentation, which is not the case. In fact, you can find almost all possible permutations if you read through related documents, books, and articles. Therefore, also references within this presentation might have a different spelling of the term micro frontends. So yeah, you can think of really almost everything out there. I've even saw that one once. But yeah, for the sake of this presentation and also all documentation related to Luigi, we go with the term or with micro frontends as two words. This is also aligned with what on ThoughtWorks documentation you can find, and they claim to be the inventor of the term, so we stick with that. Okay, now the definition. Micro frontends, an architectural style where independently deliverable front-end applications are composed into a greater whole. Well, you may say now it's about composing a front-end application out of smaller pieces. Isn't that, yeah, what almost all fairly modern frameworks are doing? With micro frontends, it's a bit different because it's not about conventional components, but about applications who build the parts. It's also it's not about solving technical but organizational problems. That means the split into pieces for micro frontends is not done because of more readable code structure, better testability of single units, or avoiding a code duplication via reuse. It's done to overcome organizational problems that appear whenever a lot of people work together on a bigger thing. And it's also not about visual size, but what is deliverable independently. So this is the main factor how to split your micro frontends in comparison to a conventional component approach. Yeah, so it can be a tiny button. So, for example, when the user clicks on it, then some service is called. Where you can, for example, express your appreciation of something. But it can also be a very comprehensive application for user management, for example, where the UI consists of multiple views, of flows, of wizards, and so on. So that could also be a micro frontend. And the reuse in the context of micro frontends is not about creating something that can be reused in for multiple purposes. But the reuse is more, and that only applies if you have a big landscape with several applications that you can reuse a piece that has a dedicated purpose in multiple contexts. So one example would be the user management Micro Frontend. So ultimately, it is all about a team owning the life cycle of a feature end to end. So now we have an explanation what micro frontends are, but we don't know yet why we should consider using them. So let's talk about the benefits of a micro frontend architecture and highlight some use cases, because it's actually not something that makes sense to completely replace conventional web development in any case. So it's not a silver bullet, as Luca Mezzalera said in one of his presentation. So it really needs to, or it tries to solve a dedicated scenario. So the main problem that can be solved with micro frontends is development scalability. So I think it's not a coincidence that micro frontends became popular slightly after the general adoption of microservices, because it got obvious pretty quickly that the benefits you gained with independent services were eaten up again when it came to the front-end layer. Therefore, it can be considered a natural evolvement to apply the same principles that work nicely for services also to the front-end layer to remove this bottleneck. But there are other benefits that also come along with it, maybe not for free, but without much additional effort. So, for example, modularity. Since all the building blocks are decoupled, you can have multiple orchestration configurations. That means you can have multiple feature sets that you offer for your customers, maybe based on what they are willing to pay for it. Also, UI extensibility is pretty easy to apply because you can use the same technical foundation to have also customer extensions or third-party extensions being part of the application. And as already tackled before, reusability. Whenever you have a product portfolio where you want to share certain functionality across. And there are even more advantages if your micro frontend architecture is of a specific nature. We call it technology agnostic, which means micro frontends are not required to implement in a certain UI technology. By the way, this is what some people heavily criticize, because some people think this is what micro frontends is all about, stitching together a Frankenstein system out of a zoo of frameworks, which is not the case and not the main purpose. Here these kind of benefits. So you could gradually update to new technology stacks, meaning you have an application written in one certain UI technology, and you want to go to the next version, which might not be compatible anymore, or to a completely different UI technology stack. And for large applications, that would be a very, very time-consuming task where you can't do anything else. In a micro frontend architecture, you could do that, let's say, view by view. having the most important views maybe coming first, and the more legacy views where maybe they're already end of life, you can just leave them as they are. Another benefit is that it's slightly related, that you are not dependent on any technology. So when you have first decided for one UI framework, you can at any time fairly easy, again, step by step, switch to something else. And you also don't have alignment heavy common version updates, which means, as already said, if you decide for one framework, usually there are new versions coming up from time to time, sometimes with compatibility issues. Then, there is no need to kind of coordinate that across all your teams. They can just go with their pace. To highlight that a bit, let's have a look at the typical shipment process in a scenario where multiple teams work together on a bigger front-end application. So in a conventional setup, after a development team has finished a feature, it usually has to bring it into the main application, either by merging it to some sort of main branch or distribute it as a package, which then has to be included in the main code base. And then usually a very heavy pipeline starts its work, potentially push it through some landscape stages. Maybe there is a central QA team looking at it, and so on. And if everything is fine, it ends up in a waiting state to be finally released to the end user at the next release date for the main application. And then it's live. So with Micro Frontends, the process looks slightly different. So again, here, development team has finished a feature. Since their Micro Frontend is an independently delivered application, the team just deploys the new application and it's released immediately to the end user. I think that shows the potential of a significant reduction of time to market for a feature, or also for bug fixes, of course. So now, we know a bit about Micro Frontends in general. Now let's go to Project Luigi. So here's a one slider trying to bring the key aspects on one slide. So it's an enterprise-ready Micro Frontend framework to mainly focused on administration and business user interfaces, but it's also capable of being used in any kind of web application. It's open source, and it's kind of tailor-made for SAP context application, but it's not restricted to that. It is technology agnostic, and it already comes with some shell features that are shipped out of the box. So let's have a look at some technical classification, which is a bit hard because there's not that much, let's say, publications around the whole topic. There's one which I find quite useful. That's the Micro Frontends decision framework, written by Luca Mezzalira. And yeah, according to that, we try to now to classify where Luigi is in which categories Luigi is. So first, as I already said, it's UI technology agnostic. That means it has all the benefits that we have discussed before. Then the category called definition in the Micro Frontends decision framework contains, let's say, two different ways how to split Micro Frontends. One is vertical split, and Luigi supports that. Vertical split here means that the UI parts are more page-based, so that a Micro Frontend is a kind of a whole view that fulfills a certain purpose, or maps to a feature. And the other category is horizontal split, which is more in a way that several Micro Frontends are at the same view at once, so that one view is kind of composed out of several Micro Frontends. This is especially for, let's say, more application-based web applications, like, something where you don't go through a lot of pages or views, but rather have, more in a kind of an app nature, like something like a web player for videos or for sound and so on. Luigi also supports that, and Luigi also supports hybrid application. That means applications that use vertical split and horizontal split at the same time. Now let's come to the composition. Here, you have mainly three ways, and it's about where your application is built together. So there exists server-side, edge-side, and client-side, and Luigi is supporting client-side composition. That means it's also the Luigi library is a JavaScript library, so there are no additional server-side components needed. Then about the routing, obviously, since it's client-side composition, also specifies also that the routing is done on client side. And for communication, Luigi supports here events via post message for iframe-based Micro Frontends, and an event bus for web component-based Micro Frontends. Of course, you can also communicate via URL parameters inside your main application to pass data to the Micro Frontends. And we also have a client API, a JavaScript client API, that allows you within your Micro Frontend to easily communicate with the core application or with other Micro Frontends. And as already said, Luigi comes with a lot of out-of-the-box features that are handy to get really quickly started with the new application. So we support responsive design. We have optional UI for shell and navigation based on Fiori. We have role-based visibility restrictions, notification management. We have a security or ID provider abstraction for OAuth 2 and OpenID Connect. We have some sort of form and modal management, like dirty state handling and so on. And we have also multi-language support and a lot of more things, but they don't fit on one single slide. Yeah, some examples how Luigi applications could look like. Yeah, one thing everyone can try out is our Luigi Fiddle application. It's yeah, a small playground where you can modify the configuration and you see the result immediately. That's on fiddle.luigi-project.io. Also, our documentation page is the Luigi application itself, and you can see already the capabilities to customize the UI, so you are not bound to Fiori. We also have our own created our own team dashboard to manage our daily work. That's also based on Luigi, and then some prototypes POC also to show that in theory you can style it however you want. Now let's have a closer look on what types of micro frontends we support. So I already said that there are mainly two categories, vertical and horizontal split. So for the vertical split, Luigi supports the integration of based on iframes. That means your micro frontends can be yeah, just normal single page applications as you know it, written in any framework of choice. So what you do is you import the small Luigi client API, and then you can communicate with the main application. A second way of vertical split iframe integration is based on web component standards. That means here the micro frontend is bundled as a web component and registered in the Luigi configuration, and then it's integrated as at the end as a tag. Also here, of course, you have the Luigi client to communicate with the main application. But then we also have horizontal split capabilities here. That means you have one page where multiple micro frontends can be displayed. And here, of course, each micro frontend also has the Luigi client API, but they also have access to a common event bus in order to communicate with each other on the same page, which is often required, I would say. And a third kind of special case we also have is nested micro frontends. That means here it's similar to a compound page, but the underlying, let's say, view is not something that comes from Luigi, where you can just arrange your horizontal micro frontends, but it can be a micro frontend by itself. And yeah, here's some minimalistic code example. I was wondering if we can provide something that fits on a single slide and it's still readable, and I think I made it. So here, with this code pasted to an index HTML file, for example, you're done with a very simple example. You can even run it within your browser without serving it via a web server, just from the file system. And what you get at the end is this one. Okay, so let's go through the example code. So you can see we include here a CSS file and a JavaScript file from Luigi. And then we have a script section where we set up Luigi with a configuration object. So there are three main parts here in this example. One are general settings, where we here define the title of the application. Then we have a routing section where we specify that we want to use hash routing. And then there's the navigation section. So all micro frontends in Luigi are so-called navigation nodes, which comes also with the routing capabilities. So there's a node tree, which corresponds to your routing. And here you can see we have a root node called home. We don't show it in the navigation. If we would have hide from nav false, then the home node would shown up in the top right corner in the shell bar. Since we only have one root node here, we hide it. And then, as children, we have two nodes defined, and these are the entries in the left side navigation here. So you can see the path segment, which corresponds to the route, and a label, and a view URL, which is where your micro frontend lives. You can also see there's some context. So this is data we can pass to the micro frontend. In that case, it's both for both micro frontends the same view URL, but with different context data. Yeah, for further information, here are some links where you can visit our homepage. There are also developer tutorials on SAP developers. We have a YouTube channel, and we are also on Twitter. So be happy if you subscribe the channel or follow us on Twitter, of course. And with that, I want to thank you and say goodbye.